Evening, folks. Thanks for coming in. I hope you're all well. You're all welcome, and you're all staying safe during this time. Hi, Chaos and Mysteria. I hope you guys are okay. Tonight we have back with us GSI. You probably all remember John his last time through, and tonight we're joined by his other colleagues, Ralph. So thanks, guys, for coming in.
No problem.
Pleasure.
How's life been treating you?
After you, Ralph.
Well, cheers, mate. Yeah, as good as can be expected. You know, adapting to the current circumstances, shall we say, that the whole world seems to be trying to endure at the moment. But yeah, trying to remain in the living and investigate, being safe in that respect. So.
Yeah, same for me, I suppose. I mean, it's annoying because we got big plans for Friday, Saturday this week, which have now been scuppered. So yeah, it looks like we're about to be put in lockdown for at least 4 weeks. So yeah, it's a bit annoying, but I suppose you've got to just suck it and get on with it, really, haven't you?
Exactly. So, see, John, you've been on before. This is the first time I've met you, Ralph. Can you tell us a wee bit about your sort of the background you've got in the paranormal, how you get into it, and when you get into it?
Oh, crikey. I mean, I can remember picking books up on the paranormal when I was about 6 or 7 years old. All the other kids would be leaving me alone because they thought I was a bit weird or something. But yeah, I suppose that. Yeah, cheers, John. Thanks for moral support. Yeah, so really, it's from there, and then you get like experiences and that. And obviously, when you're young, you can't determine what's real and what isn't real, you know. And it just went from there, really. And I think I liked it because it wasn't like maths or anything. There wasn't an inconclusive answer. You know, you had to go out there and find the answers and sort of like test your limits and test yourself. So it's built up from there, really. And then obviously with my own personal experiences through life, whether it's been with a group of fellow ghost hunters or just on my own, you know, having those experiences just made me want to go out there and find more answers. So hence the reason that me and John ended up starting our little GSI group and going on to where we are now.
So what's been your kind of greatest experience or most eventful experience up to date?
I suppose really, I mean, it depends how you want to look at it. I mean, from a GSI point of view, since we've been doing this, I think some of the Ouija board sessions we've done have been good. Some of the places that we revisited, like Clifton Woods and that, they've been, because we've seen it when it's quiet and when it's really active. So that just goes to show the parameters. I think one of the biggest things for me, though, is when I actually had an experience myself when I was around 15, where I was able to actually see a figure of a ghost and describe it and then get shown a photograph of that person as well in the same clothes as well, which was really verified everything, which is very difficult to get. So that was, you know, that was for me at that point. I was thinking, yeah, I'm just not destined to be on medication or anything. You know, it is something out there that you know that needs looking at and investigating. Really, and hence the reason we do what we do.
I totally get what you're talking about, Ralph. I think that's, you know, a big part of paranormal is, as you say, like mathematics, you know, whatever the subject, you get a definite answer. But with the paranormal, there's no definite answer, if that makes sense. You know,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
We just keep going and, you know, try and investigate, try and pick up, you know, whether it's an EVP or a photograph, something like that. And it's part of the fun as well, you know, obviously it's enjoyable as well. So how did you and John hook up kind of thing?
Oh, do you want to go for this one, John, or do you want me to carry on? Or
no, you fill your boots, mate. Go for it. I'm just enjoying my whiskey and coke at the moment.
Well, so I met John through work actually, and we didn't realise to start off with that we had similar sort of interests, and it wasn't through, you know, through like messages going through work colleagues that eventually it was like we got talking about the paranormal, and was like, well, let's go out and give it a blast, and we went out with sort of like budget substandard equipment, see if we could get anything, and it just went from there. Once we realised we was pretty much on the same page in the direction we wanted to go, and that was it really. I mean, I must admit I was more into the actually the doing, and then John decided that it'd be a good idea to take us to the media level. Hence the reason he does all the editing and everything, which is great. Works hand in hand. So so it started from there really.
But Sarah does all her editing and all that kind of stuff, because when it comes to I'm as thick as mince basically, and I put my hands up to. I'm still learning how to use this PC, and I've had it about 3-4 weeks maybe.
Right.
So if I turn it on and it doesn't go in, I need to shout and Sarah, because I don't.
Hey, we've all got our weaknesses and we've all got our strengths.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
I can work the telly and my phone. That's it.
So, you haven't got to direct it though, have you? And edit that.
No, exactly. So obviously you're right in the paranormal now. Where do your friends make it? You probably friends that aren't into. Do they reckon you're nuts, or because a lot of people think paranormal investigators are just off their trolley, basically.
I think if you'd have turned around and asked me like 15 years ago, I think a lot of people would turn around and go, "You just off your trolley. What are you doing? Just leave it well alone." I think now it's a lot more accepted, and I suppose really, if you want to compare it, it's like you think back, 30 years ago, where if you had a tattoo, you was an outcast. Now, if you haven't got a tattoo, you're an outcast. So I think times have accepted the fact that now we've got a lot more paranormal stuff. I mean, whereas before, if you wanted to pick up and watch something on TV, you was searching for ages to find it. But now you just like that. Which one do I watch? So
that's true.
I think
there's that many. Just the last 30 years or something, the paranormals kind of took a big step forward.
Yeah,
I think, and it's a lot. You still got a lot of people that think we're all nuts, and they think that when you die, that's it, lights out, for everybody.
it's the biggest thing, isn't it? It's fear of the unknown. If people don't know things, want to leave it well alone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I think in some cases as well, it's. I think this is the wrong word to say, but it's like a lack of education. It's where they're ignorant to the fact of what we're doing, and they've got no interest in trying to learn about it. But in their eyes, that still makes them right, if you get what I mean. And it's not that way. If you don't know something about a subject, learn about it. Try and understand it a little bit more, and then see if it changes your opinion. If you're just going to be closed off and ignorant to it, then surely you don't deserve the right to have an opinion on that subject. That's how I look at it anyway.
Yeah.
I agree.
So, I mean, do you find that a lot of people who, aren't into the paranormal maybe watch some of these, I'm going to name them obviously, but some of these, ghost shows on TV, and that kind of, gives them this kind of image of how we operate kind of thing, and that's it, it's just set in stone in their minds. Do you think the media's got a lot to do with it?
I think to a degree, but I think the worst thing, more so than things like Most Haunted, Ghost Adventures, and the other shows, it's Hollywood. They the crap they come out with, and that's what people take as paranormal. It's absolutely ridiculous. And in real life, all of us here are paranormal investigators, and we know it's absolutely not like that in any way, shape, or form. Like, I think if you was to just say to somebody, what's your definition of a ghost? It'll be something with like a white sheet, rattling chains, the old Hollywood stereotype, where really we all know it's not like that at all.
The image, that everything's demonic, and as soon as you get in a haunted house and you hear a noise, it's a spirit, and they start screaming. And there was a question in the comments there. I'm just looking for it just now, guys, about think it's for you, Ralph, about your favourite place to investigate. Aye, there is there.
Right. So, favorite place. I think. Do you know? I don't really have a favorite place as such. I think if I have a favorite place, then I'd be going around and saturating it. I think it's sort of like I like places that got a history, but when you get there, you get that sense of you're not on your own, and it's sort of like for me, it's like an adrenaline shot. Really, you just want to get in there and go for it. I mean, we do a lot more wood type places because of what we're accessing and where we are. You know, it's sort of like with having Sherwood Forest pretty much on a doorstep, and you know, several hundred years ago, pretty much covered Nottinghamshire. It's like we got pockets of ancient woodland that are just there waiting for us to go in and investigate and try and cite the history out and everything. So, I think if I had to do, I'd say probably the woods at the moment would be the good places. But yeah, I'd probably turn around and say that.
4-year-old told me today a ghost is your energy. Yeah. Why? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it's the essence of what we are. It's like I would say is, if you have jam in a jar, it's sort of like if you take the jam out of the jar, it's the jam still jam, just because it hasn't got the container around it. So it's like, if you class the jam as the spirit and our body is the jar, that context, then yeah, that's what it is. It's energy. You have to look at our devices, all to do with energy and frequencies.
It's all energy. It's normal.
A lot of people, when they talk about paranormal investigators and people just starting out, they all tend to stick to, like, say, graveyards, old churches, castles, and stuff like that. Why do you think that people have the impression that graveyards, etc., are more haunted than, say, a bus station? For example.
I mean, personally, I think you associate a graveyard with death. It's as simple as that. It's where the body's buried, so whether they put two and two together and think that the spirit will still linger there because the body's there, you just naturally associate graveyard with death, don't you? But for me, I'd probably say that's the least active places that we've investigated are graveyards and churches. Probably because they're consecrated ground. I'm sure you will get some sort of spirit there, but we haven't found a lot, not at the moment anyway. But that's not to say that they're not there.
Yep. Gilliam's
I do get lots of activity on graveyards of soldiers.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
Actually, now you've said that,
I said it.
what I've just said, what I've just said is actually incorrect because we've done about 4 or 5 graveyards and we haven't had overly a great amount of activity until we went to Mansfield Graveyard, and it's probably one of the most active places we've been. To be honest, I forgot all about that one, Mansfield Cemetery. And if I remember right, Ralph, that has a lot of soldiers in wartime graves. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's quite old. To go back to about mid-1800s, it's a massive graveyard as well. So you just don't know the circumstances that people have been buried there. Whether it's been because of who they are, like if they're the murderers and stuff like that, or they've just not wanted to pass over, so they've lingered around the area that they used to. Again, it may not be necessarily a person that's buried there. It could be someone that's used to visiting that graveyard, and it's a residual energy that just keeps getting back over and over again.
And I think
so. I think again, the answer to the.
Yeah, I think maybe you will disagree, but the cemeteries I visit in Belgium, for instance, soldiers of the UK, soldiers of the USA, I think most of them don't want to lie there. They want to go back home. Maybe that's why. I don't know what do you think? It's just a thought.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, they want to go home. Most definitely, they want to be close to the loved ones.
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
is
I'll
said,
take
this is said Mansfield Cemetery, John. I think we spoke about that the last time you were on. I'm sure. I have a good because I write everything because I don't trust computers 100%. So I write stuff down, but the trouble is sometimes I lose it. But I think
Yeah.
we spoke about Mansfield Cemetery the last time. You did get quite a wee bit there. Am I right? Is that the same cemetery?
Yeah, we got loads there, and I think it was the week prior to coming on your show, which is where we'd been to Mansfield Cemetery. It was very fresh, and for me, and I think Ralph will agree, it's probably the best location we've been to where we've actually had audible voices. There must have been between 4 and 6 different occasions where different members of the team were having voices either shouted at them, whispered to them. Even the skeptic of the group was freaking out because he was getting whispers in his ears. And for that to happen to James, that's very unusual. So when he gets spooked, yeah, we know something's happening.
I remember because I watched that video just before you came on. I remember you quite a wee bit. But so Ralph, are you easily? I know you've been into paranormal for a long time. Are you kind of easily spooked, or does it? Have you ever been totally freaked out at a certain location?
Bizarrely enough, it's more like you get a sense of energy, so you get pockets, places where you think you should be really freaked out. I've not been so much. I mean, one of the solos we did, where I walked through a place called Witch's Wood in Calverton. I walked through that on my own, and it's not somewhere that groups of people walk through. Thankfully, that night it wasn't very active, but that's one of the locations where you could turn around when it did kick off. Me and John, we were backing up like OK Corral because we were being surrounded. And yeah, I put you on edge. I wouldn't turn around and say, scared and we're ready to run, because we turn around and say we don't run. We don't do running. We don't do running when we're doing paranormal stuff, but we don't do running, especially when we're doing paranormal stuff. So, but yeah, I'll probably turn around and say something like Witch's Wood when it's been really kicking off, has been, you're on edge and you're like, do you know what I mean? It's like we need to look at an escape path here. We're like trapped animals nearly. We're in someone else's garden. So
you just get that sense. As I said, we've said on lives before. We did that once at Canongate Kirk in Edinburgh, and usually nothing freaks me out, cause it just doesn't bother me for some reason. But this one particular night, we were going to Greyfriars for 3 a.m. and we were a wee bit early, so we went to Canongate Kirk, and there was just this kind of overwhelming feeling, dread, that oppressive kind of feeling. And it left us with that feeling that you think something bad's going to happen, like Grey Kirk hanging over you. But the further we got away from Canongate, the more we go towards Greyfriars, the feeling totally disappeared. So I know exactly what you mean. Sarah felt it as well. Also, she was there as well, and you wouldn't get it. Cemetery, Sarah, is that right?
I went into the cemetery and then I was taking a picture of David Ritzell's grave, who was Mary Queen of Scots' secretary, and I seen a kind of shadow walking past, but there was nobody next to me, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then I just get a overwhelming sense of to get out of there, basically. So I just did. That's what I did exactly. I told Scott, I was like, I'll get you outside the gates, and I got up and left.
Wow.
So how you? I mean, also, the situation is going on now. We don't speak about it, but also it's affecting everybody. How's it affected you guys with your investigations and trying to plan, where you're going and where you can go, etc.?
Well, we had plans for an entire team investigation Friday at Sherwood Forest. We was going to cover a huge area. We was going to be there for hours. That's been cancelled. Saturday on Halloween night, we was planning between a 4 and 6 hour live show for Instagram from 2 to 3 different locations on the night. Loads of Halloween things to chuck in there for the viewers, and we were sort of doing it for the people that can't enjoy Halloween this year due to COVID, those that can't go out. They've got to stay in, trick or treat or whatever. We was hoping to bring at least a bit of something to them, so they can at least get something out of the Halloween season. That's been cancelled now as well. As far as the rest of the planning goes, it looks like, from what I can gather, we've got starting Thursday at midnight a 28-day lockdown, or what they call Tier 3 in England. So we're not out for a month as from Thursday. What happens after that? It's anybody's guess.
Yeah.
Are we going to Tier 3, Sarah?
I think so, possibly. We'll find out Thursday, I think it is, that we find out.
I think it's Thursday, our announcement is, but it's just, obviously it's unfortunate, the whole thing that's happened, the past so many months, but as you say, Halloween, Paranormal, it's the biggest time of the year, really. We had plans as well to go to Edinburgh on Friday as well. Obviously, that's been shelved. So we are doing Sarah will tell you more about it. She's actually the brains behind it.
On Saturday, we are doing a Halloween themed live where we will be doing, we've got a quiz organised. We're going to be doing, there's Halloween jokes, Halloween riddles. We're going to be doing some famous ghost pictures, some famous ghost stories, how Halloween all started, superstitions that are kind of around Halloween, Halloween traditions from around the world. I think that's about it.
That still sounds good, though.
Yeah, sounds educational, informative, and fun.
Well, that's it, because we were going to do, obviously, a weekend of investigating, but obviously that's been kind of stopped in its tracks, so to speak. So we just kind of thought, well, what can we do? Because there's no point just sitting here doing nothing. So we thought, well, we might as well incorporate it into a live, and that's how the Halloween Spooktacular came about. Yeah,
no, good.
Yeah. Well, we feel it'll be educational, because a lot of people, a surprising amount of people that actually don't know the origins of Halloween.
No.
Yeah. I'm one of them. I'll put my hands up. I only learned a few years back that where Halloween actually started and what it means and whatnot. So it does educate. Hopefully it'll educate. Whoever's watching it, and how Halloween started and why we do trick or treat and why people dress up, etc., etc. And unfortunately, during this time, as I said to you earlier on before we came on, the interviews, etc., are really about all you can do just now, because you can't basically go anywhere. So the best way, it's a good way to keep in touch with people and educate people, because everybody's got their own different points of view, their way of working, and it's good that if we can bring people together and bring people. I think I'm echoing. Why am I echoing? Sorry, guys. I thought I was echoing.
Yeah, I did just a little bit.
Am I still echoing?
Yeah. No, you're all good now.
No, you're okay now.
That's fine. So as I say, it's a way to bring people together and try and educate them, etc. Because as I say, we're very, very kind of limited, So Ralph, where's your kind of dream location? If somebody handed you a plane ticket and says, right, go and investigate whatever you want, where would it be? I like to ask people this because everybody's always got a different answer,
Yeah, I think that's That's an interesting one. Never been asked that before, really. I've always been sort of turned around and says like, you stick to where you are and expand outwards. So I've always lived by that sort of philosophy. But I think for me, obviously, I think probably like some of the key places like Transylvania and like places like that. I think over that way would be cracking. The castle, the woodland, all the environment, the setting up, and everything over there. Just because it's so much history, so much mythology around it, legends. I think that would have been an amazing place to do, and I've spent some time there.
Mm-hmm. Aye, well, that would be a good place. What about you, John? I don't know if I asked you that the last time.
You did. Can you remember what I said?
And I've forgotten what you answered. I say, it's a question I always like to ask people because some of the answers we get, you think, So I'm always kind of just curious as to people's kind of dream location would be.
Mine was the Japanese suicide forest.
That's right. So it was. There was a suicide forest.
Yeah.
I remember now. Because everybody's got their own kind of favourite. My favourite place would be Graceland. Probably, I'm a big Elvis fan, and I'd love to go to Graceland and investigate.
Me
call
too.
me.
I'm coming with you.
I've forgotten the Calder. An Elvis fan as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think I'd definitely be Graceland. So I saw a wee tiny bit on Instagram for last night. You were at a church. Is that right?
Yes. 2. Was it 2?
Did something go wrong, or did you have to cut out early?
No, we just decided to do one section of it as live. We did 3 locations. The middle one was always going to be live, but the 2 locations either side of it, we wanted to sort of like knuckle down and get into the investigation ourselves, because it's very difficult. If there's only 2 of us, myself and Ralph, it's really difficult to do Instagram live and throw yourself into the investigation fully, because one of you's sort of paying attention to what all the questions and comments are coming through. So, it is really difficult. So we made the decision to do the middle section as Instagram, so we can interact with the audience that we've got. And then we've still got time to do the first and the third location as a full investigation for us, so we can concentrate on what we're doing.
Right. As I was honest with you, I've no time to watch any of your other stuff as yet, and I don't mean that in a bad way, guys. The time just tend to get away from you. What's your last couple of investigations been?
We've done Clifton Woods. We did a subscriber investigation because we've just moved into 4K production now. We just bought a brand new camera. So we're on 4K now. So we've got a Clifton Woods subscriber one. This Friday, the team went to Extreme Screen Park for a Halloween event a couple of weeks ago. So that comes out this week. And the last investigation we did, apart from last night, was a week ago. And that was an ancient woodland in Nottinghamshire. And that was crazy. That was mental.
Yeah.
What happened there?
Well, in editing it, because I think we're going to try and split it into 2 parts, Ralph, aren't we? Because looking at it, obviously we're now going to be locked down for the next 4 or 5 weeks, and then we don't know what's going to happen after that. We want to make sure we've got continuous content for the channel, so we're going to split that video into 2, and that's 2 weeks content then. But personally, I mean, when I've been editing it, it was like a real life Blair Witch project for myself and Ralph. It's just constant noises around the entire group, which was just myself and Ralph on that night. And there's trees being shook, twigs being snapped, constant footsteps around us. I mean, I think I've edited about 30 minutes of it so far. And I think I've had to put like 15, 20 replays in it with enhanced sound because there's that much going on. It's just constant. ridiculous.
So what kind of feeling did you get from it?
Didn't feel oppressive for me, but it was constantly like, I don't know if it was trying to get rid of us.
Was that was hide on?
Yeah, whatever was there was making us aware that they knew they could see us, and they was making sure we knew they was there, sort of thing. You know, it was full on attention all the time, constant noises, non-stop footsteps near us. It was, yeah, it's one of the most active places we've been. From looking back on the edit, thankfully with the new equipment we've got, it's picked it all up as well, which is great.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be giving that a wee watch once it's all put together. I'll definitely be. So how your subscriber events? How do they work?
We put a message on the channel, or like a 2 to 3 minute video of how people can apply for between 2 and 4 places. Well, myself and Ralph will talk about it beforehand and decide how many people we want to invite. Then I'll do a little video, ask people to comment down below with their names, how many people are going, give them terms and conditions, and then however many names come through, we basically put them in a hat as we split them up into the groups. So if there's 4 people, that would be one group, and then so and so on. And then we pick the names out of a hat and just we let the ones know that have won. Say thank you to the ones that have not for applying but they've been unsuccessful. We then give further terms and conditions to the ones, the people that have won, of where it's going to be, what they need to bring with them, do's and don'ts. Make sure they're absolutely satisfied with what's about to happen, and then if it's all good, then we meet up and they come along and we scare the living daylights out of them most of the time.
You scare the living daylights. I hope you do. Do you ever set things up for them, or?
Never.
I think enjoying your whiskey and coke.
Yeah, I've drunk. So you can see it's going down quickly at the moment.
I just noticed the size of the container. Most people have a glass, maybe that size.
It saves going back into the kitchen and refilling.
Sure.
You seem to have a big juice bottle full, But
it holds about a litre, but there you go. As a group, we never set anything up for anybody. I think on the Clifton Woods subscriber one, which we did a couple of weeks ago, it was dead. Myself and Ralph have never experienced that before. And we bigged the place up to the subscribers that was coming with us. And on the night, it was, we really had egg on our faces as it was flat. It was really flat. And we couldn't believe it. We were like, if there's any place that's going to be active, it's this place, and it's not active at all. And they both came back and said, look, it just proves that you don't make things up. You're not trying to enhance anything, even when it's quiet. It's flat. We can see it's flat, and you're not making any excuses for it. And they actually appreciated that, so we took that as a positive.
I don't know exactly. When I was saying sense stuff, I wasn't meaning, like faking. I was meaning give them a wee surprise, a wee scare or something.
No, we don't. No, we try not to. If we go to, sometimes we invite subscribers along to Halloween events, and that's where we sort of, we let our hair down a little bit. We can be our silly selves at them events. So when we're going through the mazes and stuff, we may well give them a bit of a fright and stuff. But we take the paranormal investigating as seriously as we can, and we would never want to sort of like enhance unnecessarily their experience. What we want them to experience, what it's really like. So if we end up, having somebody or one of us jump out of a bush or something just to give them a little fright over the night, it's not. It doesn't represent what we sort of do. So no, we never do that.
I know what you mean about. If you get nothing, because I've seen some ghost shows, and there's one in particular I follow, and if they don't get anything, they say they don't get anything. Excuse me. And it does. I think it adds to the team's credibility.
Absolutely.
You know, if they stand there, put their hands up, and say, "Look," especially if you go to a place that's meant to be really, really active, and you get nothing. It does add to the credibility if you put your hands up and say, "Look, we've got nothing for you, but I hope you enjoyed yourself or you learned something, from it." What do you think, Ralph? Do you think it increases credibility?
100%. I mean, I think there's too many shows that aren't defined between entertainment and actually acknowledging what is paranormal and the history and the respect of what that place is about. And I think, it needs to be that line, and we're definitely on that line where we respect the place, we respect the fact that we're investigating the paranormal because we want to get the best possible evidence that we can do, like everyone does. And if we start throwing April Fool's tricks in there, it's just going to go down the other way. It's just going to be a joke and that. So we don't want that. If we want to scare someone, quite literally, we just turn around and go, right, let's get the Ouija board out then. That scares them.
Yeah.
So it's never something. I mean, no offense to people, that use it. Everybody's got their own kind of belief. It's something I've never ever had the notion to dabble with. Because you hear that many different stories, some good, some bad. So I've never ever tried to. So dabble might be the wrong word. I've never had the notion to try it out, if you know what I mean. Have you ever had any bad experiences for the board?
I've never heard. I mean, I put all my faith in Ralph, as I say to him and everybody else. Ralph's the trained person of the group who knows how to operate, open, close, and control the Ouija board. So I don't even attempt to try and do it. It's not something to be played with. So whatever Ralph says, he's the boss on as far as the Ouija boards go. That's it. Now, we didn't have a bad experience, but we did for 500 subscribers, we did a Ouija board in the middle of Clifton Woods. And at one stage, we got a 14-year-old Satanist come through. And right. Ralph, to his, good to him, he was on the ball. And before I even knew what was happening, he was ready to close the board down. I mean, they seemed quite a respectful spirit. Don't get me wrong. There was nothing oppressive or anything about it. But over the course of 4 or 5, 6 different questions, it went to the number 6 3 times. But it didn't do it like 6 6 6. It was 6, then a couple of questions to the yes and the no, then back down to the 6. I didn't even collar what was happening. Even when it went to 6 for the 3rd time, and Ralph he just jumped straight all over it, closed it down immediately, because obviously that's a sign of things are about to take a turn for the worst, or possibly could do. So I mean, he knows what he's doing. So if he says it's good to go, it's good to go. As far as I'm concerned, if he says we've got to close it down, we close it down. I put all my faith in him. I know I know he knows what he's doing. But I would certainly urge people who haven't got the experience or haven't got the knowledge about them not to play with them. They're not a toy, even though they was presented as a toy when they first came out. There's a board game initially, but they do open up doorways. So if you don't know what you're doing, just don't mess with them.
Ralph, you're the Ouija expert.
I mean, it's interesting. I mean, I'd say expert. I don't think there's a qualification to it. I've not seen one anywhere, universities or anything, but it's one of those things. And again, I think it's being several steps ahead, like in a game of chess. If you got to know where the boundaries are, and anything that comes in to involve like Satanism, specific patterns on the board, certain names, it needs closing down straight away. Better be safe than sorry, because again, it's a way of divination, whether it's on a Ouija board, glass work, or whatever. If you're asking a spirit to come through, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know you're going to close it down safely. So,
So what got you into the Ouija board to start with, Ralph? What kind of hooked your interest?
I think, again, it's one of those things where you just think, well, what is it that communicates? I mean, it's when the telephone came out and there's a telephone wire, you know, everyone was like mystified by that. And now obviously we've got a board that's supposed to connect to the dead that's been around since, you know, the ancient Greeks were using it. And it's like all of a sudden it was a family board game, which was represented through, you know, the good old Exorcist film, you know, and it's just sort of like, it was just something that I looked at and I thought, well, what is it that makes it so different, makes it so unique? You know, and it's sort of like, I know as a teenager played with it when I didn't have any experience. Thankfully, nothing bad went with it. So, you know, it was good in that respect. But it really started to intrigue me. Again, it's another one of those subject matters where I thought there aren't any really specific answers other than going around and researching and finding out about it, finding out people's experiences and stuff. You know, and it just came like, you know, you sat down and said to someone, there's a Ouija board, a spirit board, and an angel board in front of you. Pick one. You can be damn sure the Ouija board won't be the first one on everyone's lips. However, they're all exactly the same thing. So on social media recently, Poundland was selling them for like £1. There's Halloween gimmicks, you know. So it just goes to show the naivety of what people have got about them.
Chad, just your blooming cough. I really don't know much about it. I know, you know, for what I've watched a couple of documentaries on it and for what I've seen in films. Do you think films greatly exaggerate or, you know, put a different kind of swing onto the Ouija board? Or do you think they come quite close to what can actually happen?
I think it's a bit twofold, isn't it? It's like when you have a film that says it's based on true events. It's like, well, you take that term loosely. I mean, if you remember the film called The Entity, where there's an entity that used to be a sexual predator on a woman, and, you know, it's based on true events. But by the end of the film, it looked like something out of Ghostbusters. So yeah, I think the Ouija board, there is an element of truth to it within the films, but it's just over dramatized than that. And I think that one of my favourite ones, an example would be, you know, the old British film called A Long Time Dead. So, you know, if you haven't seen it, get a chance to watch that, you know, and that portrays, you know, basically the extreme level of what everyone fears of Ouija board. But
was it A Long Time Dead?
Yeah, A Long Time Dead, yeah.
I'm writing it down. So sorry, if I don't write it down now, I'll pop right out of my head. So that's I'm writing it down so I remember it.
If I can just go back to Gillian's comment a second ago, Scott, I think she said,
sure.
People should thank you for say, you know, if it's quiet, it's quiet. And I think both myself and you, Ralph, were so apologetic to the subscribers, wasn't we, after the Clifton Woods one? Was almost was mortified by how quiet it was for them. But as we always tell the people, the spirits are not performing monkeys. We can do what we can to try and get them to communicate. If they want to, great, but there's no guarantee. But myself and Ralph were just, I'm so sorry. You know, you know, you've come out. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. Like you say, I hope you've learned something, but bugger. You know, they've not played up for you, and I'm really sorry for that. You know.
That's I totally get what you mean. You know, and plus people come up with the expectation that if you say, like, say, for instance, if we were to say to people, right, we're going to Greyfriars tonight, you know, they'll be spending, you know, maybe a day or two before I'm going to Greyfriars and it's going to be great. We're going to see spirits and, you know, etc. whatever. And then you go to Greyfriars and nothing happens and you're kind of standing there thinking, well, sorry, you know.
Yeah.
As you say, spirits don't jump on command, you know, as you say. I've seen too many ghost programs, etc., where they'll say to a spirit, you know, right, throw a stone for me, and 2 seconds later, a stone will appear from somewhere.
Doesn't happen, you know? Mate. No, it doesn't happen.
You want to rip your eyes out, do you know what I mean? You just want to say, no, that's not how it happens, you know. They'll say, slam that door and then a door will slam, and it's just it's really just not like that at all. No. I think it's like fishing. That's the way I look at it. You know, it's like going fishing. the fish don't bite, they don't bite. But I know you mean you're standing there, you're apologetic, but I think you gain more respect that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, you've got to remain true. At the end of the day, don't fake anything, don't make it up, don't enhance it. It is what it is. You know, we're all after the same piece of evidence, and the only way we're going to catch it is by being as true as you can be. You know, and hopefully one day we'll get it. Fingers crossed. We're all searching for the same thing.
Well, that's it.
Exactly. It's like every fisherman's waiting for that big fish.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
big shark, whatever you want to call it. I don't
It's out
fish.
there somewhere.
Aye. There's chaos. Asking, have you ever done an investigation that unnerved you to the point that you said, okay, pack it up, let's go?
Do you want to go first, Ralph?
No, we never have. I think
so.
it takes a lot for us to do that. At the end of the day, it's sort of like we're very much. Sometimes I think our biggest problem is we're so calm and we don't like to overplay the reaction that we have. It's sort of like sometimes we just think, you know what, I think everyone thinks we must take sleeping pills or something before we go out because we just don't like jumping and stuff like that. So when it does unnerve us, it unnerves us. But I think we never have done an investigation that's got to that stage. And to be honest, if we ever did, it'd be one of those where we turn around and go, right, let's just, you know, back up a bit, and we'd just take a deep breath in and go, right, let's go for it again. You know, that's the sort of, it's, you know, unless you get there and you think, you know what, safety-wise, we have got no choice other than to back up. And we're not talking paranormal, you know, we could be talking because you're in a building that looks like it's ready to, you know, roof falling on you or something like that. So they're the sort of places where we would back up.
Well, to give you, from my point of view, I mean, I think one of the most heightened investigations we did was that Witch's Wood one you was on about, Ralph, the birthday investigation, where it was like the OK Corral. Myself and Ralph were back to back, spinning round as there was just noises and movement and energy everywhere. And Ralph spins round and I've just seen something run across the path. Now, at that point, most people would be right, I'm gone. No. We were like, right, go. And we're sprinting towards it. Pitch black, in the middle of a wood, knee deep in thicket and trees and stuff. We ain't got a clue what we're doing. We're still running, trying to capture whatever this thing is that Ralph's seen walk across the path. I mean, we don't run. We run towards whatever it is, you know. So far, no, we've never seen anything that makes us say pack it up. If anything, it encourages us more. The worse it gets, the worse me and Ralph get. We're terrible.
I think as well, I totally get what both of you are saying. You go towards it. There was one time we went to Greyfriars and Sarah says, and it was about the middle of the night, I think, you know, it was pitch black anyway. And Sarah says she's seen a dark shadow. It was near the bottom half, wasn't it, Sarah?
Yeah, I'm sure that was was that not the 3 a.m. one?
And she was convinced she'd seen this black shadow. So I went hunting for it. I never found it. You know, I never found anything. But, you know, I thought, you know what, I'm here, so there's no point in going in the opposite direction. You go in the direction that you see something in or hear something in. Cause
yeah.
at the end of the day, that's what you're there for.
Exactly.
You know, again, you get these ghost shows yet again, they'll hear a noise and they'll all run out the door screaming in the opposite direction. You know, and you think, why? That's Sam's quick. I don't know, advanced 10 years, but devices have been basically the same for 10 years. What do you think of that one, guys?
I think you're right in that, but I think there is advanced at the moment as much as they need to be. You know, as we found, most of the things that set off your K2s and whatever else is residual energy. You know, it's energy that's always going to be there. Vicky, one of our team members, described it as, you know, you've got energy in your body. When you pass away, that energy's got to go somewhere. Basically, it leaves like a puddle on the floor of energy. The equipment we've got registers that as good as it needs to do at the moment. I mean, what else can it do? It's either there or it's not there. So the lights on the K2 go up when it's getting the magnetic energy or whatever else, you know, the residual energy. What other advancements do you need at the moment? You know, you got your video cameras which can pick them up, your dictaphones which can record the voices, numerous K2 meters which can detect the energy, spirit boxes where they can communicate from. What else can you get at the moment? I think the paranormal science is as advanced as it needs to be at the moment, personally. I don't know if you've got a different opinion on that, Ralph.
Well, I mean, I think, yeah, in the last 10 years, I suppose, really, let's look at it like this. It's sort of like sit on a car for argument.
Is that in the sticks?
Four wheels and a front just advance, and that's all I would go somewhere. You know, it's sort of like you think when you go back further than that. I mean, we've come on from talc and powder and fishing line and chains and bells, you know, cross doorways and things like that. You know, it's so yeah. Do we need to advance? So like John says, we've gone as far as we can go. It's just getting smart with what we got. And the problem is the devices that they're doing, they can't measure to the paranormal because no, it's not an exact science. So if it's not an exact science, then what they're going to measure it to? You know, it's so yeah. I mean, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. Does that mean we've got as far as we can do? I mean, the last advancement would be the obviously the Kinect stuff. When Xbox brought out the Kinect stuff and they realised they could use it for stickman tracking and everything, and then you know it went from there.
Yeah.
Well, we're not big believers in that, to be honest, though, mate, are we? Because what I've seen of the you know, the sensor itself, it picks up on so many things which can manipulate what is actually there. I don't think it works very well at all, but that's just my personal opinion. I wouldn't want to use it. You know, for me, it's too erratic.
Have you ever worked with investigations with mediums?
We have a medium on the team. Vicky is a medium and a trained Wiccan witch.
Yeah. And if she goes on an investigation, will you tell her the history of the place, or does she doesn't want to know it?
We don't tell her. I mean, to be honest, myself and Ralph don't know. All we know is that it has a history of hauntings, and we'll probably look back to sort of when they sort of started. You know, the earliest recordings, things like that, how far they've gone back, and leave it at that. We want as little knowledge as possible before we go in. Afterwards, we then like to research how close we've come to what we've actually picked up on the night, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And do you guys and Vicky was her name, I think?
Yes, Vicky, Victoria.
Do you use protection? Does she use protection or kind of prayers or rituals to protect
she used
herself?
runes.
Because sometimes if she does.
She does, but she only gives them to those people who ask for them. Myself and Ralph, we don't have protection because, to be honest, we want the full experience. Usually we end up having as stronger enhancement runes as we can get put on us, but no protection. So we can get the full impact, if you like. The other people in the group who are a little bit more afraid, if you like, or a little bit more sensible, whichever way you want to look at it, they have the protection put on them. But Vicky's always there. She says there's nothing to be afraid of.
Yeah.
If it gets too out of hand, she can deal with it, you know. So I suppose in a way, Vicky's our protection for myself and Ralph. But yeah, as far as protection spells and stuff, now we go in hardcore, mate, don't we?
Yeah, but sometimes you just can say, just leave me alone, or those things, because most people think you need to do really rituals and prayers, but sometimes it's just enough to say, hold on, back up, ghost or spirit. Don't touch me, don't talk to me. But most people are scared of that. That's why I always try to ask anyone, do you use special rituals or protection? Because what I use is my own prayers, my own rituals. and it works. And if people ask me to do one on them, I will. But it's good. Everyone has a different way of doing
Exactly.
that. And my next question is then, did a spirit ever followed you guys?
I followed. I think I've had one follow home, but I was affected by one. Just going back to your previous point of telling the spirit to go away. When I was at Cannock Chase, I felt sort of like the breath being taken away from me. Very
Yeah.
short of breath, and Vicky could sense that at the time. And I was very much sort of like, back off, not to Vicky, to the spirit itself. I'm not giving you permission
Yeah.
to do this, sort of. And then I think it happened about 3 times, and on the third occasion, I got a bit angry about it. And just a look, and there was some explanatives sort of said, but then it went straight away after that.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that was a case of I wasn't being harsh enough in the initial instance, but then clearly it saw that I was getting angry about it. So yeah, then it left me after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very, very bizarre, like having the breath, almost like an asthma attack, having the breath completely taken out of you. It was very strange.
Yeah, but
I'm sorry.
sometimes maybe it's their way
What
of
was your
getting your attention as well. So yeah, did they follow you home? You guys, your team, did you have a spirit following you home or try to follow you home?
On one occasion, I've come home and one of my cats has behaved completely erratically, sort of laying cross, sort of like in line with the bottom of one of the doors, pushing her paws through the bottom of the door. In 6 years, I've never seen her do that before or since that night. It just happened on that night. And yeah, absolutely erratic for what she usually. She's very placid, sleeps most of the time. But yeah, there's something she didn't like when I came home. That was the Clifton Woods one. I don't know. I think it was one of the earlier ones that we did, Ralph. And yeah, so I think something did possibly follow me home on that occasion, which she didn't like.
I'm completely opposite. I've never had anything follow me, so yeah.
They don't like you, Ralph, no.
Yeah, I think they knew that I wouldn't take no crap, basically. So yeah, that was it. At the end of the day, I got further to travel. They wouldn't be able to keep up with my driving.
I just encourage it. So previous for Gillian's question, we're from Nottingham, darling. In Nottingham in the UK. And you guys ever astral protect yourself? Myself and Ralph don't. A couple of the group do. But yeah, we don't like protection, do we, mate?
No, we just go for it. It's no different. Like we've been out the last few times, just me and John. We don't have the luxury of that. We just go through it, trust our own instincts, and trust our own gut, and just go from there. So we use that to investigate and to keep yourself safe.
If I could just get back to the Ouija board again, I know Scoot made a comment. I'm just going to put it up. As you know, they were doing the Ouija board, both teens, and the planchette flew across the room on its own.
Again, I mean, one of the things I would turn around and say is because generally speaking, and I hate to do this, with it being females, is they're more emotional, so there's a stronger magnet to it straight away. Again, being teens, they're at that prime, the bodies are changing and that. So again, that's going to play a big effect on it. So if the planchette flew across the room, then yeah, they've, obviously if that's been the case, then they've got something through it. Get that planchette, sit down with it again and close the board down properly. But as I've always said, and John knows as well, I would never do a Ouija board in a dwelling that's being lived in. It's just too much of a risk because you just don't know whether you're going to leave the door ajar, so to speak, and create a portal or not. In an open environment, you don't have that risk. If it's a dwelling that's not at risk, you don't have that risk either. So, yeah, you got to be careful where you do them as well.
Yeah, that's true.
I was just going to ask that. I don't know if it's a daft, a stupid question, but it is a stupid question. But I'm going to ask it. Is there a kind of ideal place to do a Ouija board? I told you I don't know a lot about them. I'm being honest. So, is there a kind of ideal place to do it? A church or wherever?
I mean, from a point of view, go somewhere that's got probably a little bit of history around it. An open ground. I mean, Woodland's perfect. You've got plenty of places where you can move out of the way of it if you feel unsafe. But the general speakers thing is remain calm. Just be. It's like anything. If you panic, you can't make sense of anything anymore. You got to remain calm, close it down, and then just go from there. Make sure that the people on the board, the people that you trust, people that's not going to mess around, just one of you speak and ask the questions. And again, also make sure people aren't drunk or they're on drugs or they are in the teenage years or they haven't got any mental health issues, things that will generally make them vulnerable and more sensitive to things that can't be explained, because those types of people want answers. Otherwise, that's it. It just blows their head up. So, yeah. But never do it in a house that you live in or anything like that. Anyone who says do Ouija board, don't do it. I would recommend.
Sorry, what about somebody's house, somebody you don't like? You do it in their house?
That's fine.
Idea,
If you want to run that, then you go for it.
Just a random question,
Scott, once all this COVID and everything's out of the way, we'll meet up, we'll get the two teams together and we'll do a collaboration investigation in the flesh, and we'll get Ralph to go through a full Ouija board session with you all, and you can see how it is under controlled conditions, and then you can experience it for yourself, and then you can make your own mind up about it, bud.
Can I sit in the car with the engine running?
Yeah, if you like.
I'm kidding. No, that sounds got a plan. I know we've already spoke as well. Excuse me, about doing the joint investigation. As up here, used down there. But as I say, we can get together once everything's kind of over.
Excuse me a minute. One of my kids are escaping. 1 second. You guys carry on.
Okay, 1 second.
That doesn't sound too good, does it? One of my kids escaping.
You get used to it.
So here's a bug paranormal scene. He's used the Ouija board for 30 years with no problem. Over 30 years with no problem. I suppose it's
Hollywood, like we spoke about earlier. A lot of this, what Hollywood does, it over exaggerates everything, and that's what it's done with Ouija boards. Yes, they can be dangerous things if they're used incorrectly. But it's only like driving a car with not knowing how to drive a car. If you don't know how to drive it, don't drive it. If you know how to drive a car, you'll be safe behind the wheel, and it's the same for a Ouija board. If you know how to operate it, then you'll be safe using it. So as long as just be sensible. But yeah, I think they've been demonized and made into something which I don't think they are, but I suppose at the same time they could have the potential to be that way if you misuse them.
We were talking about that. I think it's with me and Scott. It's mostly obviously we don't know much about it, so I think it's that fear behind it, and it is down to all Hollywood and stuff, because obviously in all the films and stuff, it's you see them and they use it, and then bad things happen. And demonic spirits come through, but I think that's what it is with me and Scott, because we don't have that experience, so we're not willing to try. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it makes total sense, and I understand exactly where you're coming from. But like I say, we'll get together once all this pandemic has calmed down. Ralph will go through it all with you. As long as you trust the people that you're on the board with, as long as you know who you're on there with, and you put your trust in them, you've got nothing to fear. And like I say, the person who's controlling the board, just take your direction from them, let them ask the questions and let them lead the way. You'll be fine. Absolutely fine. There's nothing to be afraid of.
And don't forget, sometimes spirits pretend to be bad and trying to attack you because, they want to stir things up or they just want to tease you. And most people think quickly, oh my God, it's a demon. That's my belief. I had lots of, I call them bully spirits. They poke me, they scratch me, but that doesn't mean they're bad. And I think with the Ouija board and all the other things you can use, it's the same principle. Not everything that you hear or sense is bad.
Oh,
Sometimes
no.
they just bully
I
you.
think
That's
quite the
all.
opposite, yeah.
Yeah.
Most of what we find is actually the opposite. It's rather pleasant. There's a hell of a lot higher percentage of what we find as spirits that are willing to communicate and be respectful than the opposite way. There's a very small percentage of the bad ones, although they are there, and I think it's differentiating between the two.
Yeah, you just have to be aware. They can be grumpy as well. They
Of
can be
course.
moody as well. If you're going to investigate where they live now, I what I want to say is, if someone comes into my house without my knowledge, I would be grumpy as well. So you always have to have that in mind if you use an Ouija board or something else.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. We totally agree.
yeah,
Ralph, do you want to answer that last question, bud? The one at the bottom? Is he alive?
So yeah. I mean, I think it's safer at the end of the day. Yeah. I'm back again. It's all right. I've sent my kid back. I think you're safer with Thunderbirds than this. Yeah, I think. Send the planchette round 10 times, and then I've never done that. If the energy's there, it's there. Just ask the right questions. Just ask them so they close questions. Start with yes, no answers. You can build the energy up. Closing it's like anything else. At the end of the day, if you treat it like your house, you don't see your guest out the room, the person that you invited in, leaves your front door open. You close the front door behind them. So, and I think you have to treat it like that. I think the more that you can relate these things that is classed as the unknown to everyday things that we do in everyday life, people start to appreciate how you need to operate.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting one. Well, the past week or so, I've been reading stuff on, Ed and Lorraine Warren. They were considered great, Lorraine Warren was considered a great medium. But I've been reading other stuff that sort of contradicts it. And just when I spotted Scoot's comment there, like the Warrens, they pretty much believed everything they came across was a demon. What's your opinion of the Warrens,
Yeah, I mean, there was good with the times. Recently, it's been all the films have been all coming up and again, hasn't it? So they're at that time, there was pinnacle of the moment, so they could have pretty much said quite a lot of things where not a lot of other people have had an opportunity to, dispute or try and believe in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like
I'm
now,
not meaning any disrespect to them, was that pop?
I don't know, to be honest, Scott. I don't know. I mean, I suppose certain people around the world, they want to be rich, they want to be famous, and if people want to be rich and famous as demonologists, they have to conjure up demons. Otherwise, they're not a demonologist. So I'm not saying that they're faking it or something. I don't know enough about them, but I'm just saying, if people like that, want to drum up a business of what they do, then they've got to make it look like what they do is what they do. There has to be demons for a demonologist to exist. Do you know what I mean? So everything that they associate with is a demon, and it makes them well known for what they do, and it will make them rich in the process. Maybe, maybe everything that happens to them is the truth. I don't know. I honestly don't know enough about them, mate, to be honest.
I'm not disrespecting them or anything, as I say, it's just, a couple of things I've been watching and reading the last week or so, and you think, well, I didn't know that, and I didn't know that, and so you start to, as both you guys will know, in the paranormal, you need to have that kind of open mind. You need to have that the two-way train of thought. Is it or isn't it? And it's exactly the same way. And if I read something that doesn't sit quite right with me, I'll try to dig into it as you probably do as well. The Conjure above Paranormal. One there for you. Enfield House for a couple of hours before. What's your thoughts on the Enfield House?
Was part 1 or part 2 about the Amateurville house? Is that the Enfield house, or was that the first?
That's number 2, the Enfield one.
Again, it's Hollywood. You can, as Ralph says, you can have based on true events or based on a true story plastered all over the start of it. But once it's made by Hollywood, for me, it loses most of its credibility straight away, because what they want to do, first and foremost, before being informative or educational, is make money. And they're going to make it as exciting or as scary as people that will pay to see it be. I'm pretty sure that if they wanted to make an educational film, which people could understand about paranormal stuff, people wouldn't pay to go and see it. Do you know what I mean? So as soon as The Conjuring, I've watched the films; they're okay. As far as a film person would watch them. As far as credibility goes to them, it's made by Hollywood for me. So instantly, it's enhanced to make money straight away. I might be cynical in saying that, guys, and I apologise if I am, but that's the way I think. Anything that goes through Hollywood is there to generate money, not education, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. What's your thoughts, Ralph?
Yeah, same again. There's a lot of controversy around the Enfield haunting. The girls making up, having a secret code between them. And so there's all of that. So I think it's always going to be a touchy subject. So again, it's Hollywood meets an opportunity when everyone's really into all the paranormal stuff. So yeah, it's just one of those. It's like the other one, 30 East Drive. When the lights went out, that was the film called for that. If you've seen that, again, loosely based on events in it, you watch it as a film. Yeah, it's entertaining, but you watch it for the facts, and it's very loosely based on some facts from what I know of it. I don't get me wrong, I don't mean to, know a lot about it at all. But yeah, again, as we've all been saying throughout, it's Hollywood basically meeting and stretched it out as much as possible.
I know exactly this is the paranormal related. Sarah and I were watching a thing called Whitechapel on Netflix. And we've watched it 2 or 3 times, Sarah, is that right?
Yeah, 2 or 3 times.
I don't know if you've watched it or not. It's basically about a team of police officers in London investigating cases. The first case they do is based on a copycat of Jack the Ripper. And they get into quite a wee bit of detail, but last week we had Richard Jones on, who is a Jack the Ripper expert, and we were talking to him before. And we were saying, how close to the Netflix was it? And he was saying the exact same thing. They kind of add on wee bits and pieces to sort of build it up as well. So I do know exactly what you mean. Missy made a comment there, but it seems to have disappeared.
Yeah, that's true, Missy.
Yeah, I know that full well. Yeah, very much so. And I think on the subscriber investigation, Ralph, you commented, didn't you, as Cheryl and Chris were stood around, you said, these are the things that you don't get to see on the videos. These are the things that are edited out. You don't get to see behind the scenes, the standing around, the getting equipment ready, the breaks in between. You know, the mishaps, the stop and starts, you don't get to see any of that. It's just edited. So you get a streamlined video. You know, so yeah, that's very true.
And I think one of the things to look at is what I mean. I love watching it. Is Paranormal Lockdown. And I think they're great where they go in, lock themselves down for 72 hours. But then you have to remember they get all that evidence in an hour with adverts as well. So, you know, it just goes to show really that it's not 3 days of consistent. It is 3 days of investigating and then crammed into that little section to make a nice, neat program. So, yeah. And obviously we're doing investigations that lasting, you know, a night, and we're coming out with videos in less than an hour. So, you know, it's all done with the same context as that.
That's the other thing behind the scenes. You know, I done a piece on our Facebook page about it a few weeks ago now. I think a lot of people, I don't mean in a bad way, a lot of people think that, you know, when you go out investigating, you just go in a car, go to a place, get out, film and go home. And that's it, job done. You know. They don't work that way. No, they don't understand, you know, the planning that goes in, picking locations, you know, organising like the babysitters, time off work so to coincide with each other.
Yeah.
You know, so you've got a babysitter at the same time, the same night, what have you, and then the travelling, the editing, the, you know, all the tech stuff that Sarah does, that I don't. Do you feel the same way that a lot of people don't really? Do you think maybe videos should be done to show the sort of behind the scenes of it?
I don't think people appreciate what goes into it because they don't see it. As I've said to Ralph, I think I mentioned it to him once, said, should we on the channel have an uncut version of our videos? Because some of them, you know, I mean, most of the time I can edit our videos down to within an hour-ish, give or take. But unedited footage, sometimes you're talking 4, 5, 6 hours. Mm-hmm. You know, should we have them unedited so they can see? It was discussed and decided not to at that particular point. But I think it would be, I mean, you've got that sort of crossroads. I think it would be good for them to see it because then they can understand the process which they go through or which we would go through. But at the same time, within 30 minutes, they'll get bored and they'll turn off.
Yeah, you've got to find that balance. I think you know, how long will people watch it for before they turn off? But then the other side, I think, well, if people maybe watch this, they would see, you know, just how dedicated a lot of paranormal investigators are, how much it actually takes them away for their, you know, their home life or social life, whatever. To commit that amount of time. How do you find the work, you know, home life balance with paranormal? You've managed to kind of, because I know you guys do a lot, you know, and how do you find the balance?
Go on, Ralph.
I think normally it's like for me, it's like when you say you're going out and the wife smiles at you, you know, you're good. When you say you're going out and the wife frowns at you, you know, you're getting close to the line there. So I think, yeah, it's based, I mean, I've juggled around, you know, full-time job, 3 kids, got the wife, but myself and John, we've always turned around and gone, look, family work first, because without those things, everything else can't follow. So we put those things first anyway. And then we work around whatever we've got. Sometimes we might get out 2 or 3 times quite close together. Other times it might be a bit longer, but we do what we can do within sort of like the realms of respect to us as family people as well.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's where we're quite lucky, Scott, because obviously we are a couple and we're team members, so I think we're quite lucky that way.
But we are lucky in that respect, because obviously we got a 4-year-old daughter. But Sarah says we're partners in the team and in life as well. So it's not a case that I'll say to Sarah, right, I'm going out filming tonight. I'll see you know, about midnight or something. And she's left in here watching Corey or whatever trivial stuff's on the telly. I'm not putting Coronation Street down, by the way, anybody who watches it, no chance. But however. So we're lucky that way, and babies, Sarah's mum or Sarah's sister will take, the wee one, overnight when possible. But obviously just now it's not been possible at all. And that kind of frees us up for 1 or 2 nights a week when possible. As Sam saying, our investigations sometimes last months, 9% of it goes into the viewing footage and audio.
Yep.
So, sorry, Sarah, you go.
No, it does. I think that's the worst bit about the investigating. It is when you come home, you plug your camera in and all your bits and pieces, and then you've got to sit and watch all your footage and then edit it all. And
Yeah, I agree.
Quite a lot of time.
Yeah, it does.
And is it, you guys do a lot, if he's dropped your link, actually, where I remember, can you drop a link, Sarah? Nicole?
Yeah.
I don't know how to drop links.
I don't have YouTube, otherwise this will freeze, so Sarah has to do it. What I was trying to say is, because most people only see all those shows, as I call them, on TV, they don't have a clue how much work you guys put in it. And I think it might be interesting to do a stream about that. What it takes to set it all up, how you're going to start before you're going to start the investigation. What are you going to do with the devices? Why is that device for that and that? Because most people don't have a clue, because all they know is what they see on TV. So I think that would be a good idea, because of course I know a few of the things you guys use, but I don't have any devices except an EVP, that's all. So I'm interested in what people use to do investigations, and I want to know more. It's like, I think Sam is still in the chat. He does those things at times, and then I think, oh wow, I didn't know that. And most people, mostly younger people, they don't have an idea what you guys are doing. So maybe that's something that needs to be more out in the open. That's my opinion about it.
Could be a good idea for a one-off show, maybe.
Yeah.
So like maybe a behind the scenes, or a before and after, or everything in between, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could be a good idea.
I think it would be quite, interesting to sort of do it, not make it like in a couple of hours or something, whatever. I think that would be quite interesting. So how do you choose your locations? Who's is there one person that kind of comes up with the, locations, or do you all kind of throw things in the pot and, kick it about?
Yeah, well, it's generally me that tries to come up with the locations and that. I mean, we all have a fair input into it, don't get me wrong. And sometimes, as we say within it, we don't tend to try and find new locations. We're trying to go to locations that's been investigated, and then we put our findings in that pot. The problem that we're finding at the moment is a lot of groups aren't very willing to put out where they're going and where they actually are. So a lot of the time for me is actually trying to find these locations based off simple pictures and things like that, which I tend to do fairly successfully, wouldn't you say, John? But
you've not failed once yet.
I was quite
close once.
But yeah, so I tend to go into that, and yeah. But like you said earlier on as well, Scott, it's like simple things that people don't think about. It's like, where do you park your car when you get there? So
exactly. You turn up with a car and you think, right, it might be an old church or something. You think, right, where am I going to park this time? There'd been an abbey a few weeks back. I used to drive trucks, and I used to go up and down to Stranraer all the time. We used to pass this abbey, like 2 or 3 times a week, and I always wanted to go in. And for some reason, I never went in. But the other week, Sarah and I were in the car, and we were kicking about looking for locations, you know, and it popped into my head, I'll go see this abbey. And so we drove over to it, and we got there, and I thought, you know, that it was closed. So every time I passed it, you know, before, there was a car park, but this time the car park was not available. And I thought, you know, where the hell am I going to put the car? And it's on the main road between kind of Ayr and Stranraer, and there's lorries and buses and everything got them down there. I thought, and our car's only, 4 or 5 months old.
Yeah.
And so I was, you know, where am I going to stick this car? Kind of thing. It's just you have to do, you know, you want to put it somewhere safe. You don't go and do your investigation, you come back and you have no tyres left or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's something right. So it's all the wee even something as simple as, it's, you know, it might sound embarrassing, but, you know, finding a bathroom, you know, especially if there's females on your team, you need to pick someone somewhere they can go if you need the loo, or, you know, even things that people probably would never even think about.
Yeah.
You need
Absolutely.
to take you need to take it into consideration. I know men are different, you know, whatever, but you know, you need to take all these wee things into kind of consideration. So there is an awful lot, and it does take up an awful lot of time.
Well, I mean, if you take last night's investigation into consideration, Scott, what myself and Ralph did, what people are going to see when it's edited is a very small section from the first location, which was in a wood, very small. The second location was a graveyard and church, and then the third location was inside a church. That's all the viewers are going to see. They won't see myself and Ralph trying to find the car parking spot. They won't see us trudging through mud, ankle deep, water, getting filthy, going up a hill and sliding back down on our arses because it's caked and it's been raining all day. They won't see that from the first one. They won't see me and Ralph trudging across a field, shining torches, then getting charged at by donkeys, which happened at the third location. None of that will be shown. You know what I mean? That frightened the life out of us, mate, didn't it? Just torch two donkeys there, come charging at us like, what the fucking hell? You know what I mean?
They're not afraid of spirits, but they're afraid of donkeys. Right.
Oh, yeah.
I was just going to say that, you know, you see there, we'll go anywhere, we're not afraid of anything, but you get scared by a donkey.
But I know, it's ridiculous, but people don't see this sort of stuff, you know. The in-between bits.
I would pay to see that, you know, put it on DVD and buy it. Definitely chase me out.
You can make a fun blooper live stream with that.
We didn't have the camera running at the time, and we're trudging across this field. We couldn't actually see the church at the time, and it's almost like someone's back garden, and we're like, this feels really intrusive. We don't like what's happening here. And we get further up the field towards a brick wall, and Ralph turns his torch on because we're looking for the gate to the church, straight into the eyes of this donkey who comes running at us. And then there's another one stood right next to it who comes charging at us as well. And like, that's not what I expected in the middle of a field. You know what I mean? At 11 o'clock at night. But this is the things people don't see.
Homicidal donkeys or something. They probably never expected.
They didn't go for us, their own. They were quite friendly.
Well, no, I think they must have been reincarnated moths or something because we turned the lights on and just come to us. So
yeah, they ran straight towards us, which was quite frightening.
Oh, that was a good. I liked that. That was a good one. I had a wee tear there. I must admit. I'm not upset or anything. I don't, cry.
You're Samson afraid of cows. It's sheep for me. I can't even sheep.
Oh, don't start Sarah with sheep. I've never met anybody that's afraid of sheep, but Sarah has got, and it's not just a phobia; it's a major fear. You know, an axe wielding homicidal sheep or something. You know, it's.
We went to a location a couple of months ago, and it was in the middle of a sheep field. There was sheep running about everywhere, And it must have took me a good half hour to actually build up the courage to get out the car. No, there wasn't any sheep close to the car. They were like a good, 2.5 miles away from me. But honestly, it must
miles away from you. They were about 20, 30 feet.
Well, whatever. But it took quite a bit.
You didn't see them.
Exactly, but I'd still know they were there. But it did take quite a lot of courage for me to get out the car that day.
It was so funny. The one thing, she's terrified, and they were literally everywhere, you know. Just everywhere. I thought, this is so funny. You know, I should have been saying, "Are you all right, Sarah? You know, will you be okay?" But I couldn't. You know, I just thought it was wrong.
You just got 250 quid going through your head, haven't you?
I just could not believe it. No. But I like that. I like the one about a donkey. But no, I know you're saying, guys, people don't see the wee, you know, finding a parking space, etc. Say finding a bathroom. You know, what it can be something really, really stupid, really, really. I mean, if you're in a forest for, let's say, 6-7 hours, you know, somebody's going to have to go to the loo eventually.
Yeah.
You know, no less than a camel. You know, but. So I think that kind of idea would be quite good to put a wee short video, because you have done. And go and check the channel, guys, because I've got loads of videos on it. And Ralph, your locations up to now have been spot on. I don't think I've been disappointed with any, so you know, you get a thumbs up. But we will, as I said, we talked before about doing the Twin Live, for want of a better word. I don't actually know what you call it. So that should still be on the cards.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah, 100%.
I think that'll be quite interesting. And us coming down, so we've got plans to go to Pendle Hill after this is all over, or as soon as possible, I'll say, you know.
Yeah, put it down there on the table and, you know, wait until the time's right.
Well, that's on our list. So, I mean, if you come down, we'll come up. We'll meet in the middle at Pendle Hill, see if we can get a collaboration. Go, oh, Ouija board right on the top of Pendle Hill. How would that suit you?
That would be good. That'd be great. What I'm thinking about Pendle Hill is, whenever he goes to Pendle Hill, they do the usual locations, you know, at Lower Wellhead Farm, Sadler's Farm, the Woods, etc. I'd like to look at other areas of Pendle Hill that don't get done.
Yeah.
Because there's, you know, dozens upon dozens around that area. The whole place is kind of littered with them. But I think that'd be definitely a good project to look forward to.
Sounds fine to me, mate. Yeah, excellent. Look forward to it.
That'd be quite good. Well, I've certainly enjoyed myself tonight, guys.
We have too. Yeah, it's always a pleasure to speak to you.
Yeah. So I look forward to you coming on, because he's another boring, you know, and you know what you're talking about. And to see everybody in the chat, go and check their channel. You won't be. I was going to say you won't be surprised. I mean, you won't be disappointed. I'm just looking out for donkeys, you know what I mean?
Donkey at the moment.
Yeah.
But Ralph and John, if you can just hang on the panel just after we go off, that'd be just for a couple of minutes. So we're going to wrap it up, guys. So thanks very much for coming in. We're back on tomorrow night at 9 o'clock, where we're doing a live on Helen Duncan, the Scottish medium, and that's all I'm saying. So hopefully we see you then. So thanks very much for coming in, John and Ralph. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
And we'll see you again soon. Take care.
See you
Take care, guys.
Bye. Bless you.